Hello, beautiful light beams. Welcome back to the Brittany Renée experience. I am so excited today for our guest. She is my personal coach and a friend of mine, and she is going to blow your mind today in this podcast. So please make sure that you are subscribed, following, and drop any comments that come up. I am going to introduce you to the magical, the queen, Julia Wells. Many people, when I'm like, do you know Julia Wells? They're like, why do I know that name? I'm like, because she's a boss and she's a baddie. So Julia, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about you, what you do, the business, the good, all the things.
Yay, thank you. Okay, I'm Julia. I also go by Julia Motherfucking Wells on these
Mm.
internet streets or on days where I'm being censored, Julia Mother effing Wells, but in my soul, it's Julia Motherfucking Wells. Um, yeah, so where do I even start? Okay, I created this whole thing called Pussy Based Business. This is my thing on my corner of the internet slash now all over the internet. And to me, what that means is a way of doing business that feels fucking good. So most of my clients are female entrepreneurs, artists, healers, whatever. And this was created from both a need that I saw of like people were just like burning out and hustling and replicating all this shitty corporate stuff we all left to get away from, or academia or nonprofit spaces. And we were like, okay, we want this whole freedom lifestyle thing that's happening over in the coaching space. And then no one was recreating it in their business. So that was like part of it. And then I also got this crazy download one day from my wild dead grandmother, who was a sex worker in her own ways, in her own time. And it was like, and also like the way you do this is to bring pleasure and sexuality back into business and money conversations and all the places they have not been allowed to be, and do that in an empowering way. So my clients are not necessarily sex workers, although some might be. But this idea of bringing the two together, I've actually been banned from social media for solicitation myself, even though I'm not soliciting. So you can just like see how fucked up all the systems are, that they like can't even understand that pussy could have a place in business, but be selling business and not our bodies. So yeah, I'm just on a mission to help women understand, or those that identify as women understand, that like you don't have to hustle and burn out. You don't have to sell your soul to the devil to make a lot of money. You actually can make a lot of money, like regardless of who you are and what you're doing. And that can be a really good fucking thing for the planet. And I'm also really big on just helping women take up space and take up space being their full selves. So a lot of my work is like, how do we integrate all the pieces of you? And social media is just our platform that we tend to play on in my world. And so I love just talking all things
Mm.
disruption, pleasure, taking up space, being our full selves, and making a lot of
Mm.
money doing it because we get to do that in this lifetime. There's that opportunity, and I am all for it.
Oh, so much goodness. So as you can already tell, this woman is magic. So I found Julia. I'm going to give a little backstory about how I found
Yeah,
your
tell
magic.
me.
I don't even know if you know this story yet. Maybe
I
you do.
don't think I do. Maybe
Uh,
parts.
so a few years ago, I started doing my own coaching business. So I was like the baby in the internet. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a consciousness coach. I want to talk about embodiment, and so I'm scrolling and searching coaches, and some post of yours came up. I think it was on Facebook. And I automatically was like, who is this bitch? Like, I need to know her. And it was some like just audacious, amazing photo. And I'm like, okay, this is a vibe. I'm here for this. And so I started digging into all the Julia motherfucking Wells. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is the pillar. And so you have forever, in my experience as entrepreneur, been this, well, of course I can do that. Julia does that. Like, of course, like I can, be big and audacious and myself and sensual and like, yeah, I might get shut down, but like I'll just get back up. It's fine. So it's been this like motivator. And then when I really started getting into expanding the business, I'm like, I have to work with her. So this has been like long-term, like vision board, like working with Julia. And there, I think was a not this year that we've worked together, but the year prior, there was some other opportunity. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to jump in. And just life was like, no, it's not time. And so then this year was your mastermind. And I was like, I have to do this. This is like the thing. And I, Julia puts out for her masterminds these lengthy, like lengthy applications, which as you should, because it's an experience to work with
I'm
you.
a picky bitch.
You should be. And I was just like, she preps even her applications for these things of like, take your time, be in pleasure, just like do it the way you want to. And I'm like, yes, like say less. So I just like dedicated a whole ass work day to this. I was like, I'm just going to like pour all of my channel of energy into this. And I did a little like, okay, this is just like the space and we're going to make it happen. And I've been wanting this for years. And then Julia had messaged me and she was like, hey, I just want to say you're invited. And I literally was in the car going into the grocery store and just started crying. I was like, oh my God, manifestation locked in.
I remember your messages. I was like, oh my God. Yes.
My heart was exploding. And you are just like, for any of you that are new to Julia, she's so worth the hype that is around her, all of the people that praise her. Interestingly enough, this year, I was like, oh yeah, gung-ho business. And Julia's been holding me in all my personal stuff for the last like 6 months.
Yeah.
We're just now getting into the business realm. So, the way that you serve, I just want to like give you kudos because the way that you serve, my mind came in like, we're just going to be in boss business mode. We're going to like be in pleasure. We're going to do whatever. And like, of course you've been in this witness of like, no, not where you're going to be for a minute. But it's also been so perfect. And like the way that, I witness you coach with myself, but also with other people is you just have such a curated space for each individual in the containers that it's so amazing to watch. And I grow so much just watching you coach other people. Like our last call, I was
my favorite.
Oh my God. I'm like, I don't even like, I resonate so much. And, for those of you who are entrepreneurs and who are thinking like, maybe I need a coach, maybe I want to expand, like, fuck yes, you do. Like for so many reasons you do. And the other thing is that when we're in groups, which I want to kind of powwow on this, like being in circle, being in sisterhood, you don't even realize what you're going to get when you get in these groups until you're in them. Because for me, I came in thinking I'm going to come in and just meet all these other amazing entrepreneurs, which I have. But I was in some deep personal transformation stuff. And these women circled around me and like some of them were talking business and I was just crying about relationship things. And I'm like, what's happening? And it was this constant reminder of just, you can't fuck it up. You're doing it right. And now coming into the business piece, like our last coaching call, I literally was like taking notes from everybody else's coaching. Cause I was like, I'll go last, I'm driving. And it was just like mind blow after mind blow of like, oh yeah, I could do that here and I could do this. So the expansion that you get in groups, in my opinion, far surpasses what we can do by ourselves. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about like why you love circle and sisterhood and groups. And
oh my God. I love it all. Which like also goes back to this same, it's my paternal grandmother. She taught my mom how to lead women's circles. And so I always grew up watching my mom in circle and how sacred these times were. Like if it's whatever it is, the third Sunday of the month, like mom is in women's circle. And like that is my dad luckily also has men's groups, but but seeing the power of like these women would rally around each other when someone was going through it, whether it was a really good time and they were like, oh shit, their career's exploding. Like, let's help with the kids and let's do what we can. Or, oh my God, there's a death or there's a rupture or there's a divorce or whatever. And so just being like normalizing sisterhood and community was also a big part of that. And then I just thought that was normal. And then I go and I move to Georgia and I go to school in the South and like women don't have female friends. And all my friends were like, you're like the first woman I ever trusted. And I don't really hang out with women and we can't trust women. And I was like, oh, no. Like no, we're not doing that. Like we're a group. We trust each other. No, don't be on your bullshit. Like this is what it is. And always like, everywhere I went was always creating those spaces. So that just like, naturally is a part of me. And then to see how it's been able to transform my entire business, like people meet their best friends, people meet whoever, their coach that changes their life or someone that ends up working with them or whatever it is in my spaces, but they just like feel seen. And to your point, like you don't have to be going through the same stuff. It's just someone that has like the same caliber or presence, or just like they value sisterhood in the same way, even if there's like sisterhood wounds and you've been betrayed by women and you don't trust women, like I'm here for it. We're not going to do that in my space, but we can heal that through my spaces. But there's something like I'm just, and even coming up through corporate before I moved into entrepreneurship, like I remember my female mentor, like I was in a management training program thing. And I think I was the only one with a female mentor. And she came up through like a more masculine part of the business. And she was like, it's just lonely at the top. Like, it's just always going to be lonely at the top. Like, watch out. Like, do you even want this? It's just lonely at the top. And I was like, no, like, not for me, not how I'm going to do this. Even if I stayed in corporate, I guarantee you would not have been. Like, I was still the person that was rallying everybody. And I was like, let's learn from each other. Let's share with each other. What can we do better? What can we do differently? What's not working? How can we support you? And it's just such a core piece of my entire business. From I run a huge online Facebook group that's free. It's, I don't know, I think I saw this morning we were at 5,500 people, which is wild.
It's such a great
the
group.
thing that everyone says about it is that it still feels like a community. Like there's still, you can meet people, you can have real conversations, you can share what's going on in your world and in your life and be seen. And then then imagine getting more and more concise. I don't want to say elite because like it's a little hierarchical, but like it is like the women that are then paying and showing up in bigger and bigger spaces and bigger investments of their time and their money and their energy. Like there is something there of like having all these people that are like, I see you as so capable and I'll hold you at your lowest fucking moments and I'll remind you of your power and I'll take you deeper into your shit. And it's just like, it is like the juice and the container around everything else that we're doing. And I can't imagine that not being a piece of my work. But it is kind of like the unsung hero piece of it that people are like, oh, you just do sisterhood so well, you attract the best people. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I've never really like intentionally had to do that because those are just my beliefs. I'm like, I just only attract good people. Like shitty people who don't want to be there, who don't get it, they tend to just fall away very quickly because it's very intense to be around women who love being around other women.
And who are empowered and empowering. There's just this
totally.
There is a total vibe. For those of you who want to find the group, it's Visible AF on Facebook. Yep. That was the first Julia thing that I joined, and I was like blown away by just
like,
the energy.
What is this world? Yeah.
Like, what is happening? I found my place.
Yeah. And I think because I'm so stable and like certain on my beliefs and I share those so loudly that other people in the space, it's like same thing. Like there's room for all of us. You get to be your whole ass messy self. We clean up our messes here. We do things messy here. So it's like, there's just a lot of space to exist. And I also create a lot of layers of, I would say like acceptance or permission. So like there's a lot of people online that are like, I don't want lurkers and I don't want people who are just like watching and never engaging. And I'm like, listen, I'm here for the full ecosystem. Like I'm here for the bitches that take up so much space that are like posting every day and they're on everything and you see them everywhere. I love them. They're a huge important piece of that ecosystem. But I'm like, I love the quiet lurkers. Like I love the ones that watch for years and I don't know they're there, but they're like getting the wisdom and the juice and they're healing at a pace that works for them. I met someone the other day and they're like, oh yeah, I'm in your group. I see everything. But like, I don't think I've ever posted or commented. And I'm just like, well, one, like you should try that. That could be fun. And two, like, thank you. Thank you for being a piece of that community that's still holding all of that, which I think is so special. So I just say that if anyone's like, this sounds intimidating, like dip your toe in and then like full dive in when and if you're ready and it feels right and good for you.
You know, that's, I think, one of my favorite pieces really that drew me into your orbit was just show up, like just do it. Like if you're messy, it's fine. And it's funny because I, prior to coaching, was a makeup artist. And this was what I coached all of my people who I worked with makeup. I was like, just do it. You're going to mess up. Just go get like some makeup, fuck it up. Just redo it. It's fine. And then I get into coaching and I'm like, okay, now I have to like shift this belief that it's also fine to be messy here.
Yep.
And, I think with social media, right? Like it's so amazing and it's so I don't want to say it's bad because I don't think it's bad, but a lot of people are only operating in that perfectionism, like everything
Totally.
is
Totally.
perfect. Um, and
And the
that's
algorithm rewards some of that. Let's be real. Like there's
yeah,
the toxicity of humans, and then there's also like a machine built on making things the way that they want them to be.
exactly. And I think that it's just this medicine is so needed that, wherever you're at, it's like just show up. Just show
Yep.
up. I don't know
Yeah.
how many like calls we've had where it could be me or someone else in the group and like we're like camera off and we're like, I don't know that I want to be here today. I'm like really in my
Right.
shit, but I'm here.
Yep. Because I allow, like, I'm not like, oh my God, I need to blow you past what you're available for. Like, you still get to have the medicine of sisterhood and support and witnessing no matter what. I just fully believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one of the fears, right, around the sisterhood thing, which is interesting that you had experienced people being like, I don't trust women. We don't, do that. I'm like, I've not experienced that because I grew up in pageantry. I grew up in theater, up in
Mm.
show choir. I grew up on the stage. So like us like theater junkies and dance kids, like we always ran in packs, right? So that was like nothing abnormal for me. Yet coming into college, I remember thinking like, oh wow, like having all of these other people that I hadn't really like grown up with, there was a lot of weird energy, just like mean girl kind of energy. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, this is not cool. Like, I don't like this. And I
Yeah.
think there's an interesting line around empowered women and people come sometimes portraying that as mean girl type of energy. Like, oh, they're over here. It's like, no, we're everywhere. Anybody can be here. You can come and be the weird one. You can come and be the boss. You can come and be whatever. Like, you can be the
Yep.
sad bitch today. That's okay too,
Yep.
you know and so I think that one of the things too for anybody listening, like if you're kind of getting perked up and you're like, ooh, okay, this kind of sounds interesting, like this is like I'm feeling in my womb space just a lot of energy, right? So I'm sure people
Uh-huh.
listening are going to be like, oh yep,
Uh-huh.
sister wound, I got that. I really really invite you guys to lean into the group, just to kind of browse like the pages of Julia and all that she does, because you'll see even in just like comments and people that are supporting, like go click through. This is like just here to open up your mind, right? Go to Julia's page, but then go to like the comment section and start to see all of us who are with her and standing with her and following her. And you will see so many incredible women from all across the world who are all giving their medicine no matter what. Like they're all showing up. And these are, high level coaches that are killing it. And one of the other things that I know personally I was navigating, and I think is also a big belief though in patriarchal things, is that women cannot make money, like quote money, big money, right? While being in their sensuality, while being messy,
Mhm.
while being a coach. Like this whole belief system is like, you can only be so much. And I'm like, I know an entire group of women who are like slaying the game financially, and they're really connected and they're enjoying, right? Like they're not in burnout. They actually like got there in a way where their nervous system feels good.
Yep.
So, I think that is one thing I'd love for us to chat on. And I want to hear more about kind of your leap too from corporate to this, because I think that people are going to love to
Good
hear.
times. Yeah. Yeah. And also just to say, like, if you are new and you're finding me on the internet, like I lead a lot with the sexuality and like overtly so. But my message is like, as long as you're tapped into it and you're harnessing it, like I have clients in turtlenecks and like I'm in lingerie because that feels like a true expression and part of getting in front of people. And like I'm meant to be an agitator and disruptor. Like you
Yes.
either know you fuck with Julia motherfucking Wells and a bitch in lingerie on the internet very quickly, or you don't, which is great marketing and a true expression. And then so I just want to say that too is like, it can be quiet and subtle, but the idea is that it gets to be part of it. To me, it is like your renewable energy source. Like, turn on is always accessible. Pleasure is the most free resource. Like, me, pleasure is just an activation of any of your five senses. So I can be like, ooh, like this feels warm and like I can smell it and I'm present, I'm mindful, but like it's connecting me into my body instead of running up in my head all day long. So I just want to name that too. I think can be helpful because there are times you might come into my space and people are like, this is a lot. And I've also had people directly tell me like, you'll never be successful leading with your sexuality and that doesn't belong here. And people are going to take it the wrong way. And I'm like, actually, I think people are taking it the right way, but like, I'm sure many are not. And I'm okay with that also. But
I feel like that's a part of my contract here too.
yeah, I'm like, I'm so okay with that. And, you know, and I also get like there's spaces to do it and not. Like, I'm not necessarily going to walk into, you know, if I was presenting at a Fortune 100, am I going in there like tits out, blaze it? No, like there's context.
Right.
However, on the internet, I get to do it my way, and I'm going to do it my way because I
Because
get to. Because it's permission giving. There's a ripple effect that's happening, right? And when I got into the industry, I didn't see that, right? And I was like, the thing I kept telling myself was like, well, I don't want any of this if I don't get to like have that piece of me here because that was so important to me. And so I was like, okay, well, we just have to see like how do we bring the pleasure and the pussy and the sensuality and sexuality into it. And turns out people are very excited and
we love it.
took off very quickly. Everyone was like, oh, permission. And now there's lots of people on the internet talking about pleasure and in their lingerie. And it's just been, I've just seen it be so empowering. But I did come from the corporate space. I had taken time off before college. And so I'd worked a lot before I got in and worked through college. And then after I got into a management training program at Geico, like one of the top insurance companies in the country. So yeah, as corporate call centery,
I
not
literally can't visualize
I
Julia.
know, like me in a cubicle, but I always was the one just like doing wild shit. And I'm like getting the girls together to like go work out on our lunch break or like create a community. And, you know, so I was like bringing myself into it as much as possible, but also like, oh God, this is not it. There was not a lot of space for
This is
humor
not
and
the vibe.
thinking differently and being outside the box. No, it was more like, how do we get you to comply? And I was like, ha, 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 I will not. But you know, whatever. Post recession, got a job, did the things. Um, and you know, grateful for so many pieces of it. I worked my ass off and saw what I liked and what I didn't like, and it also taught me so many leadership skills and how to drive results, which is like similar to what I'm doing. And also coming into a space where they're like, here's how you get your team results. And like, they must follow this by the book and they must da 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 da. And like, just shit that it was like, no, that actually doesn't work for people. And I would come into teams and I would turn around the most difficult people that everyone had just written off and they were like, oh, he's been here forever, he doesn't do anything, his number stuff, blah blah blah. And I'd be like, watch me just give two fucking fucks about this human for just like 10 minutes a day and they transform, like someone just cared
Mm.
about them for once. And I was like, look at that leadership. There's a way to do this with humanity. So, you know, like I got to bring my flavor, but I very quickly was like, this this can't be it. I had like 7 promotions in 3 years, and I was on my third office, moving around the country, and everyone was miserable. And there was this like, I'm sure we all know this, but like the lie that they're like, but at the next level, it gets better.
Mm.
We also do this in our own businesses. We're like, when I'm making the next 10K, 20K, 5 million, 20 million, then all of a sudden it will get better. And guess what? It gets better where you make it get better. It gets better when you decide to focus on it feeling good. And I had just gotten to the end of my rope in the corporate space. Thank God for everyone. And I was like, I'm done. I have no idea what I'm really doing in the coaching world, but I see this thing that exists. It calls to me. There's something that's allowing me to actually be of impact with these gifts that I have that are like, you know, lucky for some people in Geico, but probably not best used in a call center managing a lot of humans. And it took me, I got into entrepreneurship and it took me years to figure this out and become successful. And the first 4 years of my business, I was just kind of flailing around. A lot of it was trying to unlearn all these things that I'd learned from school, from corporate, of looking perfect. I think like within my first year or two, I had perfect branding, like the most stunning photo shoot you've ever seen. Like I should print those on my wall. They're so gorgeous. And I had no clients. And everyone's like, wow, her business must be going so well. Look at how beautiful her brand is. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no clients and I'm such a loser. And I like am having the hardest time over here. And it was just incongruent and disconnected. And that was like part of that, like, okay, I tried the like, do it right, have a funnel, have a system, say all the right things online. And I was like, this doesn't actually really work. And probably around year 3, 4 was when I was like, okay, I know I want to do the business and visibility stuff. I was coaching a lot of people around visibility, and I kept seeing that there were so many wounds around sexuality. Like women just being like, I'm scared to take up space because this traumatic thing happened, or what if this happens, or all of the attention on me. And I was like, okay, we're going way deeper than I expected. Here for it. Let me go get some more training real quick. And that was also when this download from my grandmother came in that was like, this is your work in the world. And like, you literally need to like bring in the sexuality to business piece. And I remember finding this training that I was going to do. And I called my dad, it's his mom. And he was like, God damn it. I knew one of my kids would like have to continue this work in the world. And he wasn't even mad. He was just like, I've just been waiting for this call. Thank God my parents support this. That made it 10 times easier that they get it. They thought it was a little batshit for a while, but that's okay. Mostly my mom's like, can you stop swearing on the internet? It's crass. I'm like, I make a lot of money. I don't care what you say. She's like, okay, it's fine. I get what you she had her own shit to deal with. And even my grandpa was like, what is this thing you're doing? And why are you swearing? And I think that month I made like, I don't know, $13,000 off Facebook post. And I told him, and he was like, carry on. I don't care what, it's working. You obviously understand how this.
It's so wild to me, so my mom and dad are very supportive of what I'm doing. My mom really gets it. She's American Indian. Like we get it. Right. But the rest of my family, like they have no idea. They're like, she does like motivational speaking and like talks about mindfulness. And I'm like, yeah. But it's so funny because the question for like my grandparents or most of the family outside of like my mom is, well, are you making any money? And I'm like, I love that this is the gauge of like, you're only successful if you're like slaying the financial game, which yes, we live in a world that like finance is freedom.
Yeah.
I'm all here for that. But I'm like, don't you want to ask like, how does your business feel? Like, how are you doing? Like,
how many people did you support today? Whose lives did you change this week?
I'm like, we have to change the narrative around this. But, it's funny because when I first started into my coaching stuff, I was similar, right? Similar story. I think we all kind of go through this like cycle, right? I'm like, hey, I need everything to be whatever. And at that time I was putting out the motherhood stuff because I was in the thick of being a new mom. But it was interesting because I felt really disconnected with that. Even though I like love being a mom and love my kids, I'm like, something's just like missing here. And like, I feel like I should be feeling something different.
Yep.
And I had like a little bit of success with groups and finances. And then when I left and got a divorce, I was like, this has all got to change. Like, I actually don't want my kids even on the internet, really. Like, I want to take all of this down. Like, that's not my truth, And so then I'm like, well, who am I? And I go through this whole like embodiment, like what's embodiment? What's divine feminine? What's like sensuality? Like, and that's really where I think for me, you really cued in harder. Like I found you before that, but then it was like, okay, so I could do total sexy lingerie and be selling like business coaching and all these fun things. Or I could be over here and be like in my, fully covered stuff as a mom. But like, where's my middle? Like, where's my,
and what is your way?
Yeah. What's my way? And for me, it was a lot of testing the waters. And I think that this is like how we navigate. So like anyone
Yes.
listening doing like anything in life, like you just have to try shit. Like you're never going to
Yeah.
know until you try.
Yep.
And so, I started speaking a lot of things online about aliens and star seeds and channeling my things, and I'm like, people might think I'm crazy. And like one of my TikTok videos went viral and I had like 2 million views.
Hmm.
Overnight, I had like 17,000 followers and then it just kept growing. I was like, what is happening? I was like, not even like done up, like it's always the video that it's like, you're not
Totally. You never expect
trying.
it.
And then I started sharing more sensuality and more just like movement, and people were loving it, and it was the permission, right? And it is. So
Yep.
it's like, if anyone listening to this is like needing to see someone else lead in that sensual embodiment, like find women like Julia, follow like us, follow all the women that are in her circle, follow me. Like we're going to give you the permission to show up the way that feels good for you and whatever that is.
Yeah.
And then you get to also give the permission. I think that's what's so cool about the like domino effect of this is
Yes.
like all of us are just like, yeah, permission, check, 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 check. And
Yep.
we're changing the world in the best way.
Literally. I call it like the pleasure ripple effect because it is. It's like as soon as someone feels you doing it, and the other thing I'll say on the like permission, a lot of times that shows up as trigger and judgment. And I'm here for it. Like I'm here for people projecting their triggers and judgments on me. Like I'm aware not everyone's gonna be like, yay, she's empowered and in her sexuality and wealthy and like I love her. They're gonna be like, fuck this bitch. But then there's a part of them that's like, damn it, I want what she has. And I don't mean that in the tangible things. Like, you don't need to want anything in my life that I have, but you want the essence of that level of permission, of embodiment, of confidence, of like willing to go out there and go after the things you want so unapologetically. Like, that's what we start to feel from each other. And it's like, okay, you might be doing it more in relationships or dance or embodiment or spirituality or whatever, but being around people that have the essence of like, oh my God, that's the woman I want to be in the world. Like, put yourself in those spaces, no matter how activating it can be. And you will just naturally start to notice you're like, oh, I said a thing I wouldn't have otherwise said, or I wore a thing, or I did a thing, or I ate in a different way, or whatever it is. But it's just so cool to watch. Like, all you have to do is get yourself around it in a new way. And that starts to do the work. And then obviously there's like deeper and deeper layers you can get into. But I just think it's so cool to remember like just you get to be around these people too, even if they fucking trigger you.
I love getting triggered. Like this is honestly one of
Yeah,
my I do. And people are like, no, you don't. I'm like, oh, I do, because it's literally
totally.
showing me something within me that's like super uncomfortable, creating a lot of
Yep.
friction,
Yep.
not being heard. And we've been trained and programmed to think a trigger means go the other direction. It's not for you. Don't be around people that trigger you. All that's doing is making you not grow.
Yep. 100%. And there's a difference of someone causing you active harm or like
Yes.
spiraling you out into trauma. But there's something to be said for someone who does like awaken a desire that you either have shoved down, that you weren't even present to. But that's how I look at it, is like when someone like really gets me and I can't stop thinking about them, I'm like, what is it about them that I want? Again, it could be a quality, it could be a physical thing, a tangible thing, it could be just like how they show up or the way they do something. But I'm like, there's something I obviously need to own. And as soon as I do that, then I'm like, okay, I can go create, I can have them help me, or I can go do this myself. But it's like, and there's so much angst until we own it, because we will be like, ah, every time I see them or feel this or see someone with the thing I want, it's so frustrating. But there's medicine, there's a desire there for you to claim.
I love that. And I think the other piece is one of the themes that I've been seeing, and this is a theme I have walked myself this year, and I'm witnessing it in some of my clients, is I used to be super in tune with my sensuality. I used to be so connected. I used to be so just like oozing, the good energy. And then I got into a partnership now I'm a wife, now I'm a girlfriend, and I feel like
Oh,
I've lost that part of me.
yep. Relate.
What?
Relate. I like got into my first serious relationship and I was like, oh my God, there's all these things coming up of like, oh, but like if you're gonna be this man's wife, like that's not how you behave. And like, and even me, I was like, and he's like, I want you to be the whore. Like, let's be serious. Like, I'm so here for that. But it was my own shit. And I was like, oh my God, like to your point, I was like, oh no. And
Yeah.
motherhood is a whole
Oh, oh,
other. Keep going.
I know. I know. I'm like, what? The dotted lines that I signed for this lifetime, I just am continually like, bitch,
Yep.
what? What?
You're like, thank you. I
Yeah,
get
thanks.
it. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd love to kind of get like some of your input and advice around like how to navigate reigniting that connection and reigniting that sensuality within you and the embodiment and that essence really of like deep connection, because at the base for me of embodiment is just connection. It's just
Yep.
feeling safe in
Totally.
your body, loving your body, feeling good in your meat suit that we chose this time, and being safe to express it, and so
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of hear your like tips for any listeners on that.
Yeah. Ah, I have many. I'm going to keep it to just a couple so that it can be actionable because I think that's most helpful. So one can be what we've already talked about is hire somebody or pay to get in a space, because I think the level of having someone hold you in it, having community or a container, doesn't matter if it's a group or private or whatever, having that can be just like accelerate the whole thing, because you've said yes to like really going after this thing that you desire. So find someone around the thing that you want. There's a bajillion practitioners online. Find someone you resonate with, you like the community, you like their flavor of doing it. I just think that's so helpful. And I have lots of teachers in my lineage. You do like, and like, there's just so many cool things happening
Everywhere.
online, everywhere. Like, it's so cool now that it's everywhere. Um, but the other thing is just spend 5 minutes a day. Like, I really think you can change everything with consistent but small pieces. So I think what a lot of people want to do is go 0 to 100 and they'll like try to do some big blowout thing. And like that could work for you or work for you for a period of time. But to me, results always come from just like small, sustained things. So spend 5 minutes a day just being like, what does my body want and need, or what's happening in my body, or tuning into your senses, like, okay, what do I hear, what do I smell, what do I touch, what do I see, what is it, like, just like, and you can build this into anything you're doing. You already drink coffee every day, bring your mindfulness and presence into it and just see what happens. How does it feel when you drink the coffee? How does it feel in your belly? How does it feel holding the cup? What does it smell like? Just take a few minutes. You can put your hand on your pussy, on your womb, on your breast, on your heart, and just like be with your body. Just breathing. You don't even have to have a fancy type of breathing. Like, just breathe for 5 minutes, but some type of very intentional time spent in your body. And I just refuse to believe there's not a human that has 5 minutes. Even if you're, Brittany's so good at this, waiting in the car pickup line at school, or you're like sneaking to the bathroom or whatever. And like, listen, I get it. Mom's busy, life, the world is fucking worlding. But like, we got to find 5 minutes to be in our bodies to survive all this. And then, like, not to say you can't have more and more, but I think most people are like, that doesn't sound glamorous. That's not going to change my life. I'm like,
Try it.
no, but actually. And
Seriously.
I don't even care if you split those up. You could do 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. But like, just being like, wait, I'm here. I have a body. I have like this thing other than our overactive brains and our nervous system just like fucking haywire running everything. So I would just say, like, keep it as simple as you can. I have a whole membership called Lazy Pleasure because my whole thing is like, this can be done so fast. Everyone overcomplicates it. Again, you want to go have a 3 hour long tantric self pleasure practice or go dance for 5 hours. I'm so here for that. And for a lot of us, we just need like simple,
Yeah.
digestible, everyday access to our bodies.
One of the favorite, I was watching a Lazy Pleasure replay a couple weeks ago, and one of the exercises that you had led has been really in my mind. So obviously I really needed that code, but you were guiding them through, like, you had everyone close our eyes and like do breath for a moment. And then you were like, I want you to open your eyes in the way that feels the most
Oh,
pleasurable.
yes.
Oh, and I was like, oh,
Wasn't
okay.
that mind blowing?
Yes. But I've been playing with that all the time now. So like every morning, even when I'm waking up, I'm like,
Yeah.
hold on.
You're like,
What's
hold
like the
on.
most pleasure filled
Uh,
way that I can open my eyes,
mm,
and it's then what's the most pleasure filled way I can get out of bed. And so that's where
yeah.
it's become this, like, I've alchemized it into just like daily things.
Yep.
And if I'm feeling
Yep.
overwhelmed, I'm like, all right, like, hold on, like, let's come back to our body. How can I make this moment pleasurable? And I think this is such a hack.
Yep.
People, first of all, think pleasure and they're like, sex. I'm like, yeah, well, that
Totally.
can be pleasurable. I don't even want
Yeah.
to say it is because sometimes
It's
it's
like,
not.
exactly. There's trauma. There's so much wrapped up. I'm like, if that doesn't even feel like the thing, put it on a fucking shelf, but like
Right.
be devoted to pleasure because that's the juice.
Yeah. And pleasure is like my like morning matcha, like my morning juice
Yeah.
is like, this is my ritual with myself
Yes.
because I'm like, ooh, like it feels so good in my body, dancing, moving, and it's
Yep.
like, yeah, I'm a mom, y'all, and I make the time. Anytime my clients ever give me the BS of like, I don't have the time, I'm like, we all have the same amount of time. And there are people who are doing all sorts of things in the same amount of time that you have. And with the kids, like I dance with the kids. Like we do dance
Exactly.
parties.
Bring them into it.
Yeah, just make it work. You don't have to do this stuff by yourself. Do it with your
Yep.
family. And like you should be teaching your kids to be in their own pleasure zone of like they love to
Yep.
dance. Like my kids are boys and they ask to have dance parties. They're like, "Can we have a dance party?" And they
Yay.
like love pillow fights, right? Part and because they get to try to like beat the shit out of each other. But
Yep.
I'm like, it's you're literally, we are trying, I think, and I'm going to speak for both of us here because I think this is very deeply embedded within both of our businesses and our beliefs is we are wanting to change the world to be more operated around safety in your nervous system, around deep connection to your body and your soul and why you're here. And we're supposed to be passing this on to other people, to kids, to the lineage. This is how we change shit. And like in 10 years from now, things are going to be so different just from the ripples that we're creating. So if you're a mom, amazing. Like ripple it to the kids.
Yeah.
Show them what you're doing. Like I'll sit and do sound bowls when I'm in like a breakdown because I just need the frequency. And my kids at first were like, what are you doing? Right. Like they got curious and they'd come and like sit with me and they just kind of watch what's happening. And I'm like, do you want to know how to do this? And so you don't even have to necessarily invite them. They will
Yeah.
feel the invitation by you just doing something. They'll be like, oh, okay, what's
Yeah.
that? What's that? And you're teaching them how to like process. Like, I love that. I didn't even know that your parents did all of that. Like it's so beautiful. And look at what you've created from having parents that
Mm-hmm.
led you in a way that you're like, this is just my belief.
Mm-hmm. Like this is what we get to have. Yeah, and we haven't really touched on it. So like I think we've touched more on the pleasure as feeling good side. And so I also want to just name the piece of like to me, pleasure and being in your body is also being able to be with rage, grief,
Yes.
sadness, all of the other emotional experiences, even excitement for some people is like really hard to access, but like any of it. And so also being able to like the more you can spend time in your body, you can also then spend it to start to unlock all of these other pieces that need to move through your body. And they can get moved through with pleasure. So like there's practices where it's like, okay, for one song, can you like fucking rage and temper tantrum and like hit shit like the pillow fighting, like allow yourself to actually throw a temper tantrum and then allow yourself to wail and cry and like just be on the floor in agony, and then can you finish with like a turn on song. And if you come from one of my lineages of Mama Gina, this is called swamping, some people call it emotional release, but it's like these things count too. So if you feel like you can't even access like the yummy good whatever, like maybe there's some of that that needs to happen. And same thing, like it can feel like the rage will eat you alive. The sadness is going to swallow you whole. Go in for like one song, 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever you can access, because that is going to be deeply transformative. And like the kid thing made me think of it of like, the kids know how to do this. It's why they can throw a temper tantrum. And if you actually let them throw the tantrum, they're done in 2 minutes. They just had to move the disappointment out of their body. Or if they're pissed, they're like pissed for 2 seconds. And then like, whatever. We don't love that they hit things, but like, don't hit each other. But like, they're mad, they're upset, they don't know what to do. And we try to like shut it all down and tamper it. And then we do the same things as adults and it all gets stuck in our nervous system. It all is like gunk on top of pleasure access. So just also talking about like those things are all welcome. Those are all part of having a body and having that experience. So that could also be a piece that people want to play with of just like, okay, can you scream once today?
Mm.
Scream into a pillow, scream underwater, scream in the car, but like let it the fuck out.
Yes,
And
this
like
is
let
such a
your body have that. Like to me, that was the other side of this of like the deeper you can go in the pleasure, the deeper you can go into all that stuff. The deeper you can go into the darkness, the shadows, whatever you want to call it, the more pleasure you actually make space for. So sometimes like if you're like, this just feels like bypassing or I can't access it or pouring sugar on top of a pile of burning shit over here. It's like you also got to access this, but in a way that's in your body. So like most of us just we talk about it, we bitch about it, we whatever. And there's time and a place for all of that. But where it actually moves and transmutes and alchemizes and creates space in your body and brings back your aliveness is when you feel it in your body. So I just think that's such an important part of the conversation too.
Mm.
And why in my community, I'm like, we throw the turned on temper tantrums and little pity parties for ourselves and we bitch and we get angry and we fucking cry because all of that is our just another access way through into pleasure. And like it all gets to be a piece of the equation.
This is so good. I'm so glad you pivoted us into this, and it's
Darkness.
yes, we love it. Well, and even just like I'll share because those of you who have now been in the podcast or are in any of my circles know I am very vulnerably sharing with y'all all the time my process. And so, a couple months ago, I separated from my partner and Julia was in the depths with me this whole year. And an interesting piece for me that I have like so much gratitude for you for holding this space and for everybody who's in my little pod container is that throughout the relationship being active and together, I was in this constant search of like, how am I still showing up in my authenticity? Because within my partnership, there was a lot of suppression of sensuality. It was, quote, not allowed in his world. It was not accepted. It was dirty. It was, all of this. And I don't believe any of that. Right. And so I'm like, okay, well, I really love this person. But I also like, I'm trying to understand and respect, like, okay, like I get it. Big business guy, like doesn't want this, and when I orbited out of this and I came into like full separation, I mean, I'm pretty sure I blacked out in grief for like a month because I was just, what is actually happening? And between you and then, Julia's got support coaches also who support us. We got all the support in the containers. Between all of these calls, the one thing that I needed even drilled into my mind was like, what if you just let yourself like come undone? Like, what if you just have the breakdown? Because I kept trying to be like, no, like, I can't break down. We have to do this. And we have to keep going. And I have to, all while I'm like, can't stop crying.
Yeah.
So distraught. And I'm like,
Okay.
I don't know. And so, the permission literally, I think, saved me and allowed me to work faster.
Yep.
There was like just a session with Ashley, my support coach, that I literally couldn't even talk for the first like 5 minutes. I was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening in my life right now. I don't know what I've been doing for the last 9 months. Like, I feel like I'm failing. Like it was just dumping and swamping and like, all of the things. And she literally just held it. And she was like, the only homework I have for you today is I just want you to go let it all out. Like, I want you to just let everything go. I want you to scream. I want you to cry. I want you to curl up. I want you to do whatever you need to do. And I just want you to keep letting it come out until there's nothing else to be in that moment. And I remember having this like gut feeling of just like, oh, like everything was just like squeezing inside me. Cause I'm like, there's a fear there. There's a fear, I think, of people touching, quote, darkness of like, well, what if I never come up? What if I come up really different? What if I like totally fuck myself up from going in
Yep.
those places.
Yep.
But it is making space
Yep.
because I let myself be in like the most grief. And then really like 6 weeks out of the breakup, I was like, oh, I'm actually like able to hear a song and not break down. I'm able to see this and not lose it. Like I got all that out. Like it has made
Yep.
the space.
Yep.
I'm still
You had
sad,
to.
but like there's space now for me to come into pleasure. And
Yep.
so I love that you brought this up because no matter where any of you guys are, there's always a portal way into the juicy pleasure zone. But like if you have to get there through rage and release, like if
Yep.
you are in a space that you are in a breakup or a divorce, or you're like, who the fuck am I? What am I doing? You're leaving a job. Like a lot of people are waking up to their purpose right now. Like find support, come into groups. Like there's so many of us here.
Yeah.
And it's just so important. I love that you brought this up because it's like, obviously, yes, relatable. And I think it's so important for people to understand, like, you are bypassing if you're only sitting and like, I don't want to be triggered. I don't want to go into the grief. I don't like, you're also stuffing so much in your energy body that like, good luck doing anything in flow.
Yeah. It's
Not,
why everyone is sick and muted and toned down. And again, like you're going to have such a higher capacity for pleasure and good stuff if you can work through this. And one thing I want to offer that I think you and I hold this as probably like pretty much like a given, but I think it's helpful for anyone listening too. And just a reminder for us, the reason that I feel like we can do this with our clients and with ourselves is because one, we have a belief that everyone is capable of coming out the other side. Like there's so much self-trust and trust in the other people around us. So like, again, whether you're giving this to yourself or with kids or clients or partners, it's like, if you can come into this belief of like, I deeply, deeply trust that you will come out the other side, that you are capable of handling this level of depth and process and whatever, even if it's like you might go darker and darker, like I still trust people are capable of figuring that the fuck out. That I think gives like a whole different context to be like, okay, we're going to move through it even faster. Whereas if you're like, what if I break? What if they don't recover? What if my kid doesn't snap out of this like temper tantrum or moody phase or depression or whatever? It's like, listen, it might take a minute and that gets to be okay. But can we come into this orientation that like everyone is a very capable human being? Nobody needs us to fix them. People just need space and they need that level of like, I will hold that belief while you fucking crumble and wonder how you're going to make it through. I just think that's so potent and allows for like all the juiciness to happen inside of it.
oh, we got big sirens coming over here. Yeah.
I can't even hear them.
Oh, good. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think safety is always like in anything for me or when I'm coaching, it's like you have to find the space that you can feel safe in, right? And I'm just constantly pushing that into people's brains. I'm like, you have to find safety. You have to find safety within yourself. You have to find safety
Yep.
within your community, within your sisterhood. And if you aren't feeling safe, well, there's your work, right? Some people are like, I don't know what to work on. I don't know what to do. Like, where do you not feel safe? Where do you feel compressed and not expressed, and where do you feel healthy trigger, growth trigger,
Yeah,
not toxic trigger?
totally.
Those are so important. um I'd love for you to share too. So we talked about Visible AF. You have your mastermind for, those of us who are working towards the business and life stuff too, but share a little bit more just about like your business offers. I know you have a really hot offer coming up here in a few days, which I think this is going to be right, the 16th.
Yeah, Monday.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
So yeah, share. I'm excited about that one.
all
Share
the things.
a little bit more about how people, can find you and all of
Yeah,
that.
cool. So if you just want to like be on the free side, voyeur, whatever, dip your toes in, Visible AF the Facebook group. And then I also have a podcast called Wait, What the Fuck? And it's just WTF. I think, what did I see the other day? I think we're at episode 213 and lots of people find it and just binge. So there's like just
It's
endless content. I cover pleasure, mindset, strategy, leadership. There's behind the scenes of like me intimately reading my journals, going through like conversations with my coach if you want to see how I've done all of the things that I've created in my business and client stories and all the things. So that's like super inspirational, very, very helpful. And then we have a free event on Monday. It's called Red Hot and High Converting. So if you are someone that wants to have a business, sell things online, even offline. I really teach this community model of like how to have an audience that is like red hot, that is turned on, that like loves your body of work. They get what you do. They're ready to buy everything that you put into the world. So I really teach on that piece of it because I think people spend so much time on like, I made an offer and if you build it, they will come and here's my website. And then they're like crushed and devastated and they're wondering where the people are. So I'm going to teach you how to create the people in front of you that are ready buyers. And then that also leads into a program around how to become a social media seductress. So how to use attraction-based marketing. And again, everything that we've talked about in this episode goes into that program. So it's not just like how to write a post and it's like how to do all the work to bring your full fucking presence and self and all your values and belief in your body of work out into your business on the internet so that people can find you and immediately know if they like you or not, and then want more and more and more and get ready to buy from you or just become lifelong audience members. And then I also am starting to do the waitlist and in a couple of weeks, the applications for next year of the mastermind. And there are very, very limited spots. We'll put a link here if you want to get on the waitlist so that you get the application, I think on November 1st when those drop. And that is a full 1 year journey together. We go very, very deep. You are super supported. You are in a community of people playing at this level who see you as capable, who hold your big dreams and visions, where you can come melt down, but you're also seen as a boss ass bitch and all the things. And that's just like a very cohesive. And then I have lots of other offerings and programs and things. And you can go to my website, it's juliasewells.com, and find that. And then also I'm on Instagram in the most sneaky of sneaky ways because I've been banned and deleted one too many times. But it's Julia Mother effing Wells, and you'll follow and then immediately send me a DM and just write close friends. And I'll add you to the list so that you like my stories aren't very public. It's all on the close friend feature of Instagram. So you'll see a lot of the behind the scenes of my life, how I live in pleasure every single fucking day in my business, in my relationship with my own, personal stuff. And you can just be like, what is it like to be someone running a huge company and doing big things in the world that's also messy and lazy and avoidant and human and has feelings and believes in turn on and all the things. So that's just like a juicy little kind of, if you could have a behind the scenes in my life, that is where to get it.
I love that. Please go follow this queen. She's so incredible. So any kind of last closing advice, remarks, anything for everybody who's been a part of this with us today?
I just want to invite everyone to choose pleasure. I don't believe that you are worthy or deserving because I think every being on this earth is worthy and deserving. And I think when we take that out of the equation, it can come back to choice. Like, do you choose pleasure? Do you choose to walk one step further into something that terrifies and delights you today? And so I just invite you to be like, it's not about busy, worthy, enough, deserving. Do you have time? Like, do you choose pleasure today? And I'm going to invite you to choose pleasure today for 5 minutes and just see how you feel and notice what comes up for you.
Love that. Love that exercise. Thank you so much for being here. We love you. For those of you who are new, please make sure you are subscribed, getting notifications. Please drop any comments or what came up for you. We would love to see that, and I will pass them on to Julia. And we will see you guys next week on the Brittany Renée Experience. We'll see you soon. Bye.